Outstanding. We'll move on to our next one. Backup strategy. So here we're going to talk specifically about backup disaster recovery strategy. I can tell you there's two big components that I am typically seeing in this, and it's cloud backups and on-site backups or physical infrastructure. So Kris, I'm going to want you to touch on that real quick before we do get into the technical piece of that. I'm going to talk just high level about two key business objectives that most of the time they've never thought fully through. Sometimes we even see this on the IT side of the house where it hasn't been fully communicated between IT leadership or providers as well as the executive leadership team internally at an organization. And that's what you see up on your screen here. Recovery point objective and recovery time objective, RPO and RTO for sure. So real quick to have the standard conversation that I have around this recovery point objective or RPO, I like to ask the basic question. If we go down, how much data are we going to lose? Very simple question, but everybody in the organization needs to be aligned on that answer. What is the answer? What we see is a huge disconnect most of the time between the IT team, whether it's internal or external, and the leadership team. And what we need to do is everybody needs to sit at a table and communicate the answer to that question. What is it actually from IT? And does that meet the expectations of that executive leadership team and their business objectives? So once again, recovery point objective. If we go down today for any reason, how much data will we lose? Another way to say how much data is how much work will we lose? The second concept, recovery time objective, RTO. Same very basic question. If we go down right now, for whatever reason, how long is it going to take us to get back up and running? That question also needs to be answered by the IT team of what is realistic, what is possible, as well as what would the challenges be. And then the executive leadership team needs to understand that answer and decide on, is that the right solution for us? All of these things, RPO and RTO, we can make perfect, meaning there is no data loss, meaning there is no downtime. However, there's different levels of cost to that. So it is a cost conversation, it is an expectation, and then it's a balance of the two. With that, I wanted to flip it over to you, Kris, on the technical side of a lot of folks on the M365 platform or these different platforms. They're not even conceptualizing or they're thinking they're covered when they go to these things. And also on the physical side, what are you seeing out there from that perspective?
Yeah, that's another great point. I mean, what we're seeing a lot is that there's a lot of faith in the providers, especially in the cloud providers that deliver services to the organization, right? And Microsoft can be or is one of the prime examples where there's a lot of belief that Microsoft got it. Whatever happens, they got it, and our data is safe and is protected. And majority of that is the case. It's not a wrong statement, right? Integrity of the data is something that the provider has to deliver on. The one thing that it's commonly overlooked is the actual presence of that data, meaning that if the data is deleted, it is deleted, unfortunately. And there's no really a way to recover that. Obviously, there's some simple mechanisms that are included in Microsoft services, like some recycle bins and things like that. But beyond that, for example, with we've seen this, unfortunately, a couple of times right now where we may have a malicious employee and on the way out of the organization, they just destroy the data without having a backup of the data if the data resides in the cloud. But frankly, same concept applies to the on-premises system. The data is lost and there's not much that can be done about that. So the key point here is this: it doesn't matter where the data is, it's organizations' responsibility to ensure that the data is being backed up. Number one is identifying that critical data, what is critical data, where that data is, and taking ownership of backing that up or understanding that. Then what we do is we need to remember that everything that we just talked about, even RPO and RTO and that critical data sets, we got to make sure we document all of this. We got to make sure we document, we know what that is. So it's not just in one person's head. It doesn't have to be a 20 pages document. It can be a simple document that speaks about that. And the last thing is that once we have all these backup systems put in place, we know what the data is, we know what is the RTO and RTO. This is all great, but one caveat, let's make sure we test those things. Let's make sure that we can deliver on everything that we've written in that backup disaster recovery strategy or backup or business continuity document, right? So testing of our backups and our processes, and don't wait for disaster to make you do a test before the disaster, right? So this is, again, the difference between business A and business B. Business B thinks that they have backups and they have good backups until something happens. So again, don't let hope be your strategy.